library. Ms. Hames, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Vecchia?
Present.
Mr. Capabianco?
Present.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Ms. Callis? Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mr. Perrin?
Here.
Ms. Sullivan?
Here, will you please stand for pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda, we have public comment. Is anyone here for public comment tonight? If you could just state your name and...
I'm Adam Sullivan. I'm the president of the Winthrop Teachers Association. I'm here to briefly speak to you guys about the resolution that's being discussed tonight concerning limiting the ability of charter schools to expand into the district of Winthrop. The NTA, along with the Winthrop Teachers Association, the Mass Association of School Committees of Superintendents, a handful of other organizations are against allowing the spread or enlarging the cap as is being put forth in politics in this state from 10% to 25%. The reason we're against it is public schools and charter schools don't operate on the same playing field. They're not held to the same standards when it comes to teaching, and what you guys all know it really comes down to is the students that do leave to go to charter schools, which we don't have many now, but if the charter school were to expand into Winthrop, takes a set amount of money with that student. And when that student leaves, even if he or she comes back, that money doesn't come back. And because they're not held to the same standards and set of rules that public schools are held to, it creates an opportunity for them to educate the students they want to educate. They have much lower levels of special needs enrollment, disciplinary students with disciplinary issues enrollment because they end up being sent back and those dollars don't come back with them. From the Teachers Association point of view, dollars leaving means positions leaving, means resources leaving. It hurts not only the teachers in the schools, but the students who aren't going to be receiving that same amount of resources that they would if we were able to prevent the expansion of charter schools, particularly into Winthrop, but also statewide. So I just would ask that when you consider this resolution, you consider the reality that expanding the charter school cap would negatively impact our budgets and take away from our students and our resources. And by accepting the resolution tonight, it would help to prevent the spread of local charter schools into this district. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Is anyone else here for public comment tonight? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to delegates and visitors. Tonight we have Mrs. Pearson from the William P. Gorman School and Mr. Harady from the Arthur T. Cummings School to talk about the student handbooks. Ms. Pearson, would you like to make any comments related to any changes or highlights of your handbook?
Just, yeah, very briefly. Nice to see everybody. Hope you're having a good summer. I'll first tell you about just a couple of the noteworthy things, and there aren't really all that many. The noteworthy things and changes in my handbook have to do with revision of the arrival and departure times, which you would be able to find on page 3. I also have I've also included an overview of homework assignments. Surprisingly, I do get an awful lot of parents that are questioning whether it is appropriate and even efficient to assign homework to first grade students. And so I figured I really need to cut everybody off at the pass, and so we've added something that speaks to the homework expectations for first and second grade students, and you'd find that on page 12. And then the final piece is I did add under the part that is titled Prohibitive Behavior and Conduct. I did have to include threats. That was an omission before, and it's just a shocker, but it's very real, and it does align with the bullying prevention. So those are the changes. For the most part, the only other changes to my document, and I think I can speak for Mr. Harady on this piece, was the revision to all of our handbooks so that we would be in alignment with the coordinated program review recommendations. And so what that means is you now have an appendix back there that also speaks specifically to where you would find the Winthrop Public Schools bullying prevention policy, disciplinary due process, and discriminatory sexual harassment and misconduct, the complaint and grievance procedure. Those are the only standard revisions, I think, for everybody across the board. In terms of the outreach to folks, the big difference there is that not only do we have on the signature page an invitation that if you need translation services, to please give the school a call and we will take care of that for you. In addition to that, we are sending out a welcome back letter this year. And in the welcome back letter, it specifically states where you would find the handbook. And it also includes a copy of the signature page so that we can have a hard copy being returned. We take the burden away from parents to even have to print this page out so we can ensure that they're aware. And it does have the Friday date, so it's the first Friday we get back to make sure that this doesn't get on the bottom of a stack of papers on somebody's kitchen counter.
And the other thing that's very positive too is that you'll see that there's the translations on there too for parents to understand what that's.
How to contact us if they
Right.
need that help.
Awesome.
And that's everything.
Thank you, Mrs. Pearson. Is there any policy or procedure that wasn't changed that you would like to highlight for any parents listening at home?
That
or
wasn't changed.
reminders that you would like to?
Yes, thank you for the invitation.
Sure.
There has been
Okay, we got an hour.
absolutely no change in the arrival and dismissal protocol,
Right.
and there has been no change to how aggressively we are vigilant about building security. So parents still cannot escort their students into the building or out of the building or stay in the foyer because it's very cold outside.
And students should not exit their cars if they're in the loop.
That's exactly right. And anything else that I forgot to mention, I am very comfortable in you filling in because you know it's second best to me.
Thank you,
So,
Mr.
yes,
oh,
those are
Mr.
the
Massaro.
policies. That was a good invitation, though. Thanks, Mrs. Sullivan.
Well, thank you for your hard work, and we're excited for you to start your new school year with your new complex of children
Yep.
coming in and the third grade leaving.
And staff,
so
too, so.
hopefully you'll
Thanks
have
a lot.
I have a
breathing
question.
room.
Okay, yeah.
I'm just curious, why is some parents adverse to homework at those younger levels? Is that a large number? What percent? I'm just,
Oh, I don't even know.
what's the
that.
reason for it?
I think they feel as if the students need to be able to have their downtime. You know, most often they're feeling as if the students are so tightly wrapped during the course of the daytime that the need to reinforce skills at home isn't necessarily an important one. I don't know if the reason parents have a tendency to grouse about it because they have other things they want to do with their students. I mean, a lot of students are really overly scheduled after school. So they come home after all of those schedules and then still have to take a look at, potentially another 25 minutes of schoolwork. Places an additional burden on families, and whether they're speaking for their own interest or for that of their students is anybody's guess.
So it's a,
Let me know, though, when you find out.
Culture.
well, that's what I'm asking you, the reasons for it. I'm always for more homework.
Are there any other questions for Mrs. Pearson?
You said it.
These will go home with students on the first day of school?
These are actually,
They'll be on
the
the-
letter that, remember the letter that I had referenced
Yep.
about the welcome back letter? Tells parents where to access it on their website. Also
okay.
says that if they can't access it through a hard copy,
Okay.
to give us a call.
Thank you.
All right,
Awesome.
thanks.
All right. Mr. Harity, you're up. Want to give us the highlights of
everyone.
the changes from your handbook?
Yeah, so I'm basically going to echo what Mrs. Pearson said. Our handbook was completely revised 3 years ago, so there weren't a lot of changes to the protocols or policies in there. The only things that have been tweaked were the things that came to light when we went through the coordinated program review process this year. So the appendix piece that you see at the end, the bullying prevention policy, disciplinary due process. A lot of that has to do with laws that have recently been changed as far as, if a student is suspended for a certain amount of days, these are the protocols you have to follow. These are the parents' rights. The parents' rights have changed and shifted over the last 5 years. And so we have to make sure that we inform parents about those rights and how those things have changed. So that's basically the gist of any changes we've made.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to highlight that hasn't been changed but people could use a review on?
No, I mean, I think we go over the policies with parents when they transition into the school, and we go over the policies with parents at our curriculum night. So, I don't, not really right now.
And this can be found on the website also?
Yep, that's available online, and we're also going to follow the same procedure as sending home that one piece of paper that basically the parents are going to acknowledge that they read through the handbook and reviewed that, as opposed to sending home the entire handbook in the paper copy. But it also has a translation piece on that page. So if a parent prefers, to have it translated, or if they prefer to have a hard copy of it, we'll also provide that.
Can I ask a question? Can we send this as an attachment on the Connect Ed?
Yeah.
Because we could do, each school could do a Connect Ed, just also mention that about the handbook. It's due back, but they have a hard copy that's been attached. If they have the email.
Will we set this out on the Christmas area?
Right. No, I understand that, that's fine. I'm just saying for people just to have the opportunity, if they don't read the letter or whatever. It's just another form of communication, that's all.
And one thing that we're doing, we're sending out a welcome back letter, and in that welcome back letter, there's a second page to it that kind of bullets some really important things about how to support your students at home. Some things that we do have issues with sometimes, scheduling vacations outside of the normal time frame. Sometimes we'll get parents that'll come and say, we're going to take our students away for 2 weeks in the middle of March, and they don't understand the impact that can have on the rest of the classroom, and that one student misses 2 weeks of instruction and then comes back. And sometimes we do have some of those things that we just want to reiterate. So.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Mr. Hardy? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
So we can take these both together, I think. Is there a motion to approve the William P. Gorman and the Arthur T. Cummings handbooks for this academic year 2016-2017? Mr. Perrin, second by Mr. Vecchia. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Looks like unanimously passes. So thank you. One thing I would like to refer to the policy committee is that these handbooks don't need to be referred to the policy committee, but there should be a policy saying that school handbooks should be approved each year. So I would like to refer, I'll let Laura know when she gets here, something like handbooks should be approved by the school committee by June 1st for the next academic year. Update should be to the school committee no later than the last meeting in May. And then that gives the principals time to make any changes or any revisions that we would recommend or have an issue with. So I just wanted to mention that since we were on it. Correspondence, I don't think we have any correspondence this week. Minutes, we have minutes from July 18th, 2016 for approval. Do we have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Vecchia, I will second it. That's all right. We'll just go to, Ms. Haynes, would you just call the roll for the approval of the minutes?
Yes.
Just
Mr.
because-
Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Holden?
Abstain.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes, okay. Maybe there was somebody else out, but that's okay. All right, thank you. Warrants, we'll move on to warrants. We have warrant SVW 17-2 in the amount of $284,638.64. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by President Driscoll, second by Mr. Vecchia. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. All right, we could just sign those and pass them down. Is that all we have, Susan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Payroll? No budget?
We don't have payroll and budget transfers?
No.
Okay. Great. Buildings and grounds, we have requests from the William P. Gorman Fort Banks PTO for the kindergarten social, which is August 21st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. They use the Winthrop P. Gorman lobby, playground, and bathrooms that has come with appropriate paperwork and fees. And then the Arthur T. Cummings PTO for September 9th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. for, they're having a back-to-school barbecue, which sounds really fun.
And they bought the check.
And they have the appropriate paperwork
Yes.
and payment. So I'll make a motion to approve both of those together. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Perrin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. Unanimously passes.
Madam Chairperson. We're going to start to begin to get requests for the high school, middle school now at this time. So we will put those through to you at what the current is until those are changed, if the Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee wants to meet or anything in regards to rentals and stuff like that. But we will begin to get requests for the high school, middle school. And I know there was talk about looking at that section, so just in case you're aware, we probably will start having some at the next meeting. So I just wanted to give you an update.
Yeah, we should plan a Buildings and Grounds meeting for, before the next meeting. Whoever's on that subcommittee, I think I'm on it with Mr. Becky, I'm not sure who else, but, so that we can get any new, we might change the fees or the, the schedule of that, so. Okay, thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I think we're down to you, no? So, subcommittees.
Subcommittees.
Okay, subcommittee report. So we had an athletic subcommittee, and in attendance was myself, Mr. Vecchia, Mr. Superintendent, and Matt Serino from the athletic director. And we have a motion, we had a vote and a positive motion to approve the athlete handbook and the coach's handbook. So that's a motion for us tonight that doesn't need a second, it'll just need a vote. And the other things that came up in that meeting was we had some discussions about supervision and assessment of coaches and sort of ongoing supervision of issues related to sportsmanship and coaching and so forth, issues that have been brought up in this meeting before. I thought it was a very good discussion. I feel like Matt Serino and the superintendent are certainly on board with making sure that the student athletes are receiving the attention that they need, as well as the coaches are receiving the support and supervision that they need as well. So, like I said, we have a motion on the table to approve the athlete and the coach's handbook. The coach's handbook at this time does not have the tool, the evaluation tool, because that needs to go through the Teachers Association for approval first, because 30% of our head coaches are also teachers, so that has to be discussed with the union first. So I don't think they're in our packets tonight, but we've seen them electronically, those handbooks. So let's have a vote on that. If you are in favor of pushing through the athlete and coach's handbook tonight, please say aye. Aye.
Discussion?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I knew I was missing something.
You scared me.
That's why I was kind of rambling on. Okay, let's take that vote back. Any discussion on the motion?
I had two. One, I think you covered kind of some of it with making sure that coaches get what they need and that we're, I guess I want to make sure that if there's any outside agencies or outside private companies that are going to come in to do any strength training or specialized training, that we're made aware of it and that the athletic director is on it, knows about it, and we fully vet it out before we agree to it. I just don't want us to sign on and have a situation like we did last year.
Correct.
So, and then my other issue was, I still think we should consider a mandatory play for seniors on senior night, as long as it doesn't affect their standings as far as going to another playoff berth. If you're out of the playoffs or you're out of the running for any standing that's going to affect, I think that we should have it or eliminate that senior night where the expectation is the senior's going to play. I just think it's important.
Is there any other discussion?
So I'd like to amend the coach's handbook to require that. If I can get a second. So no one thinks we should let kids.
I'll give it a second for further discussion.
Can I ask a question about that? So did that get discussed in the athletic subcommittee?
There was short discussion about that in the athletic subcommittee. There was not, I will say, was not as full of a discussion as we had at the last school committee meeting. I think it was brought up in that we did discuss with Mr. Serino how evaluations would occur. There was some discussion of, incidents that may have been reported, and how they were followed through with supervision. And the main purpose of our subcommittee agenda that day was to really make sure that moving forward, we would have paper documentation of any kind of supervision that does take place, whether it's an observation of a coach by the athletic director or an end-of-the-year written evaluation. Do you want to add anything to that, Mr. Becker?
Yeah, that's about right.
That specific issue was not brought up as a motion, it wasn't voted on, there was little discussion of that.
Yeah.
I think that for myself, I'm not really in agreement of that, and I don't know if Mr. Becker didn't bring it up because he wasn't in agreement either, but.
It's really tying the coach's hands and dictating the coach how he's going to manage a game.
But we as a school committee setting policy, we're telling children that it's senior night, and it's their last opportunity to really play on a team. And if it's not going to affect the outcome or moving forward to another playoff berth or something like that, it's not tying anyone's hands, but for one game and for one play, and to give the athlete the opportunity. That's just how I feel. And that's one of the biggest complaints that I get every season, every year since I've been a school committee member. So I'm just telling you that you're going to hear about it over the next few years.
I had a question about part of the supervision. You had mentioned sportsmanship. Is there something about like equitable opportunities for playing as a value or anything like that in the evaluation?
The evaluation was pretty comprehensive, but I don't know, it was certainly not worded like that, but there was, it was definitely not based on wins, losses. I wish I had it in front of me.
Right,
It
and
was
it's
like,
not, it's one of the things that, we're at a varsity level, so you're at the high school, the varsity level is your best, your best athletes at that particular sport. And so, we didn't want to judge it on regards to, or we're in discussion in the evaluation of not judging it as opposed to like, are you getting everybody in, or you're not supposed to get everybody in? It's more or less, how are you working with those students? How are the students in practice during the games and all of that stuff? But if you're up by 40 points, why aren't you getting everybody in,
And
or things like that?
That's my point. You're so
Right,
far behind.
so
that
those are
it's-
but those things will be evaluated in that sense of the thing that says, hey, it's great you had a winning season, but, you only played 5 people every game, and you blew everybody out. Is that appropriate? So those are the types of things that we feel that can be taken a look at. We can't judge whether or not I disagree with the call you made to, on that play that says, oh, and you lost it, and they say, okay, well, he lost, I would have made a better play, and, you do it that way. So that's where it was becoming, we don't want to go down in that particular road. If I may add, since I'm talking on the subject, I think the original intent, but I think we've gotten away from it through the years. Because I agree with you, Mr. Perrin, that I'm the one who gets all the phone calls as well. But I think the original intent of senior night was, all it was take a picture with your parents, because to honor that was your last game in your uniform for that particular season. And, through the years that you were in there, and that's what it was. Over the years, it has turned into more or less, well, it's a senior night, why aren't they playing? They should be playing and all of this stuff. And I think some coaches have done it that way because what you just said, they don't, their season is done. They're over with, they're going through it. And then some other coaches haven't chose to do that regardless. And so I don't think that there's ever been a directive in that particular case. But the way I view senior night, and I've said that to parents when they've called me or something, is that it's a recognition of that moment that you're graduating, and that's why they take the picture at that time for it. And then everything goes back to the varsity level game or instruction. So in your motion, is your motion specifically stating that if they were out of contention?
If they're out of contention, or it's so blown out one way or the other, that it's not going to have an effect.
An impact on the standing,
impact on the
or the
standing.
rest of the season.
The rest of the season, or or affect the, moving on to a playoff spot, then I just don't see any harm in it. It's only one game, could be one play, it could be 11 seconds, but that 11 seconds
Right.
is the best
And in
11 seconds that student's ever.
And just to be
had.
clear, on a couple of them that have, a couple of complaints that I received, even this year, one of the teams had made the playoffs, but the seeding hadn't been completed yet.
Right.
So that was one of the reasons why the coach, because we did express that, well, why, if you know.
Right.
And what you have to be careful on too is sometimes people will say, like, oh, you're gonna play this night, or the kids have the, it's, the coaches are responsible for making sure that they set that tone. But in that, so if they make the playoff, sometimes there's a seeding later of where they sit in that playoff too. And so that can be some type of issue, but if they're out of it, yes, I understand what you're saying.
I don't even have to make it a mandatory motion. I can even amend it so that people feel like, it's encouraged.
Encouraged.
I don't want to take away their ability to make decisions on the field, but what I'm saying is, encouraged. And that can be
Right.
part of that evaluation process that when it comes in here, we're looking at it and saying, well, gee, there's an expectation these kids were going to play. And I really think that's set. So, I would be willing to amend my motion to say that if it's added, that it's encouraged, that on senior night, all seniors, every effort's made for seniors to play.
So I would say the people on that subcommittee, that was discussed, and that was universally, where we were all moving towards.
Yeah.
Was to encourage
I think
people.
that, like the superintendent, to have something written in policy that might tie a coach's hands in a moment of a game is
that's why
not
I
where we
said
want to
it.
go.
I
But I do
personally,
think-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I do think that, I, and Mr. Becky as well, I think we really impressed upon Mr. Serena what we want his role to look like, whether it's planned observations, unplanned observations, at a practice, at a game, in the locker room, whatever, that we want the coaches to know up front, this is going to be the evaluation, but you're also going to get support and supervision through the whole season. And the sportsmanship is certainly part of this. And I don't know how it was worded, so I don't want to say that's what it said, but it was definitely part of that, and I felt good about the evaluation he had come up with. There was probably 8 or 9 points, I would say on it. And some of it certainly had to do with sportsmanship and teamwork and that kind of thing, and not all about winning and losses and goals. But so I do feel confident that your passion for this and your mission for this was stated in that subcommittee and agreed upon. Now to make it more of a
I'm just looking for it to be encouraged to, because I
would
don't
be
think I
fine
have the
with that
support to make it
paragraph.
mandatory, but just to have it encouraged so that when there is an evaluation, you can look at it and say, well, you've got 10 parents here saying that they, that
right.
It didn't encourage. Personally,
Yeah,
I think that's the perfect word.
Yeah.
Because it does give the opportunity to
Discretion.
show that the school committee and the Winthrop Public Schools is encouraging all coaches with their athletes that they have to, we're encouraging you, if you're going to do these types of things, that when you have that opportunity, please play them.
Yeah, I would.
But you're not tying their hands still, and then it becomes the judgment of whether or not the athletic
Next year.
director
Next
thinks
I will second
they
his
were
amendment.
encouraged or not.
next year we'll
It's
talk.
already seconded. But I.
His
but-
amended
So
amendment.
amendment to the amendment.
It's
It's an
So-
amended amendment.
I'll withdraw my original.
So I'll
Replace it with-
should we withdraw our original
He can
Motion
withdraw,
as well?
but he has to withdraw his second.
I'll withdraw.
first, and then you withdraw?
And I'll make an amendment to the existing coaches manual that it is strongly encouraged that on senior night, that coaches make every effort to play all seniors.
Strongly encouraged. Now you're changing it, Mr. Perrin.
Well, I'm going for mandatory, but
Right.
strongly encouraged. Strongly encouraged. Start tying your hands. But
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that latest revision motion?
That sounds fine.
Yeah, I think it's a good compromise. Thank you, Mr. Perrin,
So
for
mandatory
sticking it out.
Fired if you
Thank you.
don't, no.
I do think it's a good compromise. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, abstentions?
Now
So
you
we'll
have to
get
vote.
that.
Now you have to vote on the coach's handbook.
With the amendment.
Oh,
You amended to put that in the coach's
Oh,
handbook.
okay.
And I just need to know where we'll figure out where it goes from
I was
that,
just
Mrs.
trying to
Serena.
look for
Front
my
page.
electronic copy and I couldn't see it, but we'll work with Mr.
We'll get it,
Rosano.
he wants it highlighted. That way, give it a cover.
All right, so with this new amendment that will go somewhere in the coach's handbook,
Right.
we have a motion to approve the coaches and athlete handbook for the 2016-2017 academic year. All in favor say, any discussion on that motion? We're good? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Unanimously passes. All right.
Manager, no.
Mrs. Superintendent, you'll contact Mr. Sereno with the update?
We will do that. Mrs. Hames, you'll send me that language, and we'll make sure that that gets right into it before
Yes.
he goes to print.
All right, and now we're on to your report, so.
Thank you. So, a few little items that we have going on. As you all know, we are opening a new school now this month. And we are continuously, every day, bringing furniture in. We were happy to see the administrative furniture come in this week, and it is being built. It should all be completed by tomorrow. Most of the equipment has been arriving. The teachers' desks will be coming not until the 15th, so that's a little delay on that, but we will get those all in. And they've shown me through WB Mason that when they say they're going to come, they do come, so that's a good sign on that. The week of the 15th, we will start letting teachers come in, if they so choose, to set up classrooms. And for some teachers, let me tell you, it has been very difficult to keep them away. Because we have teachers that once the school year's over, they're right there the next day setting up for the new year. But we're excited for that. There are multiple what they call punch list items. So there'll be multiple punch list items going on throughout probably the next 6 months. They're small little items, they're variable, things that wouldn't say we would have to close the school down because we haven't completed that. We've completed all the major components to the building, but certain little things will be taken care of as we go through it, and you will see. We've also, the IACP report of security for the in the police that we had, that when I worked with the police chief on, and we've gone through the buildings and everything to make sure that we are in total compliance with this report. We went through walked through the past couple of days. We found a couple of issues that we want to fix, and we're going to fix those to make sure that we're in total compliance with that. And so we're really excited about that. I mean, there's multiple things of this building that we have. What I am very happy to hear is the movers that come in to bring the equipment, and these guys who deliver so much stuff throughout everywhere, wherever they go, they come out and say to me, "What a beautiful building you have." I mean, and I'm not sure they say that to everybody. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful building, and we're excited to open it. Our next school committee meeting, we're looking forward to hosting it there on the 29th. Let's hope that will happen. But we'd like to host it, and we think that right now the best space for us is the auditorium stage, because it's one level when you come in, and Mr. Perrin can sing a song for us. So we're moving on that, and with that becomes multiple things. So I said the teachers will be coming in on the 15th. The 31st of August, we're doing an orientation for all students and parents of the middle school, high school. They can come and do a walkthrough. But I also know that the high school is going to be calling students by grades. The week of the 22nd, they're looking at bringing students in. They want to give them tours, and then they want to meet with the kids in the auditorium as a class and kind of go over new school, new rules, new culture. I mean, the days of just bringing food wherever you want it, those days are over. I mean, we have to change a lot of the areas there as we move along on that. So the other item that I want to get on your calendar is on September 6th, the opening day of school. I hope that each of you can come to the building between 10 and, be there at 10 o'clock, because we're going to take a picture of all of the middle school students with the school committee, town council, and school building, and some other featured elected officials. And then we're going to take a picture of all the high school students, same thing. And we're going to blow those two pictures up, and they will be hoisted on the wall for the entirety of that building. Or unless somebody else after me says take it down. But we want to take that day, that first day, and say that snapshot of that day of when it all began. And so I hope that you will all be able to be there that day. And then, of course, the 22nd, I just keep reminding you again, the September 22nd is when we have the night for everyone in the community to come. And I remind the community that, yes, you have that opportunity to come through the building. And at 7 o'clock, there'll be a presentation. We have the treasurer of the state coming to the event. She has agreed to come, along, of course, with the speaker, and other distinguished guests will be there as well. I talked about the photo. Tonight, I handed you an item that we put on your desk. I didn't get a chance to get it on the agenda, but we have been going through our vehicles. And as you'll see on this sheet on the top, the bottom part are vehicles that we had already surplused, and they say where they went. But the top part, these are vehicles that we have for, the ones that are bold are the vehicles that we are going to keep because they're running fine and we can use those. The ones that are have a little asterisk to the right of it, there's 4 vehicles there. We would like to have them surplused. They're just sitting in the back parking lot. They're doing nothing. We haven't used them in a couple of years, and we'd like to surplus them so that the town then can move them out. And so I would ask, if possible, tonight, if we could get that surplus vote on this, because that way Mr. Perez can move on these. And what you see here is the titles and all of that.
Okay, we'd be happy to get that done for you. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Karen, to,
Declare surplus the vehicles described in the document.
second by Mr. Vecchia. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. So a couple of things in regards to transportation moving forward, since we're on transportation. You have seen that Goldie St. Louis, who was my transportation coordinator / one of the bus drivers, has resigned. And so I'm a little concerned moving forward. I will be honest, next year with owning 4 buses and having no one to guide that right now. We have posted that position, but one of the things that Goldie did that was so good was that Goldie, because he was a driver, he understood how the bus worked. And it's important when you're in that type of vehicle, because the inspections and everything that goes on these buses is constant. So you need somebody to understand that language when the inspectors come around. So I am looking at a couple of alternatives because I want to make sure that we're prepared for the opening day of school. Because one of the things I've been working on is a bus schedule for the Fort Banks and the Cummings School. For kids who would like to take the bus, we will have a fee this year. The fee we were returning to the fee that we had, which was a $150 fee. But in the past, we've only had the need for 1 bus to do that, and I'm assuming that would be the need this year, just 1 bus. So I need to make sure, A, that we have a coordinator that can talk the language, and B, that we have enough bus drivers to start our school year and get all of these areas moving and going along. In the meantime, I am taking a look at what cost would be if we had to outsource it again, just to be safe.
I just was going to bring that up.
You know, in some areas, we do have to look at that because there is those concerns. The other need that I have right now, which is a very important need, is where am I putting the buses? I mean, right now, currently I have the buses on the field, but that's going to be closed off in September. And so I'm trying to locate a space. So they're great. I love having them, but they are a white elephant sometimes because they're there. And so, you know, we're trying to figure out the best way to move on this. So that's just, I don't have any solutions right now. I just wanted to update you on where I was on that and share my problem with you so that you understand.
I'm sad to hear about Mr. St. Louis. resignation because I know that he was much more than a bus driver.
Yeah,
And
he's
it will
excellent.
be very difficult to replace
Mhm.
with the coordination, like you said, of the inspections and taking care of the buses and just knowing what needed to be done. So certainly will be hard to replace. I think in our buildings and grounds subcommittee that we'll have to plan anyway, we, at the beginning of this year, merged transportation with that. So let's have a meeting in the next couple weeks to kind of discuss the, what it would look like if we outsourced it versus, you know, who kind of could fill these shoes.
Mr. Serino checked with Swampscott, and what Swampscott had done for their athletics, the cost of their athletics was somewhere around $79,000 last year. Now it'll go up another $10 per trip, so you have to anticipate what that would be. So we would have to take a look. What we have to do is we have to put all our funds together that we normally pay out, and then look at the other area. I'm also, in the high school, middle school, I'm only going to bus those students that are required to be bused, which would be the students down at the point. That's the plan right now. Technically, by law, I don't have to bus anybody after 6th grade. I think it's 7 through 12, but since I'm already going to pick up somebody for 6th grade, then we might as well pick up the rest that are going down, because I can't imagine that there's more than a few students at the point that will be coming on that. So we don't have any problem keeping that, but we're looking at all options right now.
Since we have a bus coming from the point to the middle school, high school, could we have anyone that lives in the non-point area pay to ride that bus if they were going in, you know, by that stop?
We could look at that. It would have to
Where's
be
the
just
cutoff?
down in that.
Where's the cutoff?
The cutoff is actually the point. It's 1.9. So that's the
I think it's
cutoff.
like 759, something like that.
Right.
House number.
By euro.
Right.
So the law is if you live,
So we
More
could,
than
we could look
1.9
at, we
miles
could look
away,
at Massa
the schools to
Park.
provide
Massa
us.
Park usually is
Right.
somewhere people like to jump on if we could.
right,
Why don't you end it at Delby's Corner? It's got to go by Delby's Corner to go to the school.
See, I love to say I've lived in Winthrop for 25 years, but I don't know that corner.
That's
The high tide.
High tide, okay, so I'm not the
Yeah.
true Winthropites. I'm sorry.
You don't know.
so, or,
I didn't know that was the name of the corner.
so,
It's actually Jack Elkins Square, but
Oh,
see that?
that was good. He's a, yeah.
He was a
Let's,
town meeting member.
let's take this up in the subcommittee meeting.
Okay, all right. But I will take a look at that other thing. And then finally, we are still working on we're looking at trying to better our substitute situation. It's not that we have, the issue is that trying to get a lot of substitutes paperwork and get all of that in, and we get a lot of people who say, I want to be a substitute teacher. They come down, they fill out all the paperwork, they do all that, and then we call them and no. So within 3 weeks, we don't have anybody. So we've talked to one company, we're talking to another company, we may, if we're in agreement to do something like that, but what, we would have to do an RFP if we were going to do something. But what has sparked, I will say today, the principals, is they've started to create their own type of Google thing from learning it. And so we may give that another shot this year, being more sophisticated in what we are doing to better the process. I guess the process is a little slow, and so we're trying to improve it, so that we make sure we get quality people in for the substitute.
Okay.
And that's really all I have, other than going into the appointments list.
Yeah, you have a nice list
I have a
of-
whole list of appointments that I'd like to put through tonight. So if I may, new hires, Keith Anderson, grade 7 math, Taylor Breshnahan, preschool teacher, Ben Simino, the adjustment/guidance counselor at Winthrop High School, Erin Curtin, the special ed teacher at the Cummings, Alyssa Dagnut, science teacher, Stephanie Delahanty, she's transferred from ESP to an ELL teacher, Jillian Dempsey, grade 5 teacher, Nicola Dine, adjustment counselor at Winthrop High School, Taylor Duplin, an ESP at the William P. Gorman, Whitney Asenza is an ESP who transferred to grade 2 teaching at the William P. Gorman, Robert Fitzgerald, a junior custodian at Winthrop High School, Jacqueline Fournier, preschool teacher, Justine Francisi was the new assistant principal at Winthrop Middle School, Michelle Harrington, special ed teacher at Winthrop Middle School, Meredith Hurley has signed, thank you folks, the last meeting, she is now our nurse at Winthrop High School, Justine Johnson, special education teacher, Winthrop Middle School. Sean Keogh, kindergarten teacher. Charles Kirscher, a music teacher at the Arthur T. Cummings. Julia Korn, Spanish teacher, Winthrop High School. Sarah Lampert, the athletic trainer at the Winthrop High School. Vasilios Malios, math teacher at Winthrop Middle School. Daria Millerick, ESP at William P. Gorman. Carrie Ann Murphy, assistant principal at the Arthur T. Cummings. Taylor Murphy, grade 2. Taryn O'Neill, guidance counselor, Winthrop Middle School. Cynthia St. George is our ABA specialist at the William P. Gorman School. Laura Saras, special ed teacher. Mary Kate Simpson, grade 7 English, Winthrop Middle School. Erica Stoloff, science teacher, Winthrop Middle School. Omar Suazo, junior custodian at Winthrop High School. Danielle Vecchia is going to be teaching kindergarten resource at the William P. Gorman School. And Danielle was a paraprofessional for us for a while. So we're happy to see that she's moved up into the teaching rank. And Danielle Warren, health teacher, Winthrop High School. We're also bringing on as a long-term substitute to start the year, because one of our teachers is out on maternity leave, will be Jessica Gobiel, who'll be at the William P. Gorman School. And then when she completes that, she will go right into her ESP paraprofessional role. So that is our new hires. And we only have a few more new hires. We're pretty close to being, I know the last couple of days I've signed a couple of people, but I think as far as positions go, you may see some that we have open here under postings, but a lot of them have been filled since then. So, for example, Chelsea DePaz over at the William P. Gorman, she was the music teacher. She's transferred to be the new instrumental teacher. She's taking over for Charles Sherwin. And so, and it's not yet on here, but her student teacher from last year, Miss Pearson loved so much, she's going to be taking over as the music teacher there. So that transition went a little smoother than we anticipated, so that was good. And as a matter of fact, tonight, the Winthrop Summer Band is playing at 7 o'clock out at the gazebo. So we had K resource room we'd filled, and then we posted lead teachers and ESPs.
That list is that an average list every year?
Yes. Yep. Yep, because there's changes. Some, this covers retirements, this covers people who've left. This also covers new positions that we put in.
Right.
That's all I have.
That's all you have? All right. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Superintendent before we move on?
Just a quick one.
Yep.
Have you noticed it's a change in student population? Has it gone up, down, on average, from year to year?
I
Just
think we're increasing.
have you? Yeah,
I mean, from what I'm hearing is that we're moving up, and I've had a couple of students that are coming back into town from private schools this year.
but nothing
so.
so major that's gonna
Nothing
impact.
major that I'm aware of as of yet. We'll
Okay.
find that out as we move along.
All right.
Great. Okay, so we're on to new business. We have first resolution against lifting the cap on Commonwealth charter schools. We did hear from Mr. Sullivan during public comment tonight. Mr. Capiaco, do you want to speak more to this and what that would mean for our
do I have
school
to
committee?
read this resolution, or it's already in the packet?
Somebody should read it. I would
Why don't
think
you go ahead, if you don't mind?
Okay. Just again, this is a basic resolution against lifting the cap on Commonwealth Charter. A number of communities have passed similar in the same resolution. Just today, Boston City Council has passed it. Revere, Saugus, so on and so forth. So whereas free public schools available to all students regardless of income, ability, need, or English language proficiency are foundational to our democracy. Whereas all of our students deserve high-quality public schools that teach the whole child, providing enrichment and addressing social and emotional needs in addition to core academic subjects. Whereas local accountability for our public schools is necessary to ensure that schools are responsive to the needs of their communities. Whereas Winthrop is losing over $170,000 to Commonwealth charter schools and public school districts across the state are losing more than $408 million this year alone. A loss of funds that is undermining the ability of districts to provide all students with the educational services to which they are entitled. Whereas Commonwealth charter schools are often approved over the objections of a majority of community residents and their elected officials and are not accountable to local elected officials once they are approved. Whereas Commonwealth charter schools often fail to serve the same proportion of special needs students, low-income students, and English language learners as the districts from which they receive students, and often use high suspension rates to drive out students they don't want to serve. Whereas the Commonwealth Charter School System has created separate and unequal opportunities for success, whereas lifting the cap on charter schools would greatly worsen the problems listed above and lead to a costly and divisive two-track school system. Therefore, be it resolved that the Winthrop School Committee opposes lifting the cap on Commonwealth Charter Schools, and for additional information and resources, please visit massteachers.org.
Great, and we have a list of 58 either school committees or city councils that have signed this resolution.
And I believe that list, that this was as of, I believe, June 1st. I believe we have an amendment, it's around 70 or so school committees. Like I said, Boston today, city council passed it as well.
And so by signing this, this means that our school committee body agrees with the statement that you just read.
Yes, and our name would be added to that list of school committees that already passed some resolution. And this, to my knowledge, has been cleared with our attorney as well, that we are obeying the law, if we were to vote in favor of this.
I'll make a motion that we accept that resolution.
Second it?
Discussion?
Well, let's have a second and then we'll have discussion.
Oh.
President Driscoll, go ahead.
I'm actually going to vote against this. And the reason is that it's with all respect to everybody who spoke to Tino, to you just mentioned reading this, but you know, I've used this as an opportunity to try to, you know, study this issue. And there's a whole nother side to this, which is there's 37,000 students on a waiting list for a charter school. 10,000 of those are in the city of Boston. And the city of Boston has it's hit the limit on the number of charter schools that it can have. And meanwhile, 10,000 children in mostly underperforming districts are looking for a better way, a better school district to attend. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. I think I get the rationale for being opposed to this. I mean, there is an issue, financial issue, I understand that, but I really think voting to not allow this increase in the number and delaying it for 3 years while the finances are studied just takes away an opportunity for kids to have a better education. So I'm just going to vote against this for that reason.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion?
I had two things. The first is a question for Mr. Capabianco. My understanding was that, to your point, Mr. Driscoll, that even though they're raising the cap with this bill, they are decreasing the number of students that are allowed to go to these charter schools. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, so that's what I've heard, which it seems to me that why would you do that if you did want more kids to go to charter schools? So that's one reason why I support this resolution. The other thing is, though, that I do think as a school committee body, I think most of us do believe that the schools should be accountable to the public, and one way to do that is to elect officials to help govern them. And I'm concerned that charter schools don't necessarily have that. A charter management organization can come in and set up shop and just get approval from the state, not from the local government, to start working there. And my nephew actually, he's a wonderful kid, but has a lot of energy. And he was in a charter school where, as Mr. Capabianco described, because he had difficulty sitting in a seat and just had like some behavioral things that he needed help with, they funneled him out of the school. And that's pretty common to happen, so that there's a lot of these kids that are challenging to educate that get sent to the public schools. And since nobody is overseeing them, there's no public body overseeing them, elected officials and parents, that's allowed to happen. So I do support this motion, because I think that at the very least we need to rethink how charter schools are being overseen, instead of just having these management organizations come in and just getting approval by the state.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
There are some excellent charter schools. For example, I think Excel Academy in East Boston does a lot of great things. It's just, in my opinion, that we shouldn't lift the cap and it shouldn't take any more public funding from the public schools.
Did you want to say something?
I did,
Yep.
if I may.
Yep.
Just a couple of things that I think people need to be aware of as well in regards to charter. And it's interesting, my daughter works for a charter school, and they've had very successful where they're at over in Boston Collegiate. But a charter school can follow a different set of rules than I can follow.
Yeah.
So if I go to hire a teacher, I have to make sure a teacher is certified. Charter school does not. I mean, right off the gate, you're not playing on the same, level. The field, the playing field isn't leveled at that point. So there are some issues there. I'm not opposed to charter schools, and I would say from the perspective of, I understand the purpose of it, but if we're going to take public funding, then everybody should have to follow the same rules. And what we've asked the legislation from the mass superintendents, because we've had workshops where we've talked to them, is we want everybody to follow the same rules. That's all. We want accountability across the board for everyone. And so that was the main concern on this. What makes me nervous is that we're sitting in a school here that we're leaving in 3 weeks. And what if this school were to become a charter school? Does that pull away from us some of the, that type of competition in that area? And so those are the things that we just have to be very careful on as we move forward. I'm concerned about our funding, that the way we get it as it is, but I'm in my position. So it's not for me to speak yes or no, but I just wanted people to understand the differences of the inequities here and there.
I think it's not as black and white as it might seem when you get, a pamphlet in your mailbox, or you hear a news clip in the paper or on the news. I am in favor of, supporting public education and supporting funding to public schools, so I'll be voting yes on this. But I do think that it's difficult to have such a wedge between public schools and charter schools, because I think that charter schools certainly have a place, and there are plenty of kids getting an excellent education and plenty of families that are very happy with charter schools. But at the same time, if they're taking away resources that could be spent, we know here in Winthrop, that we require resources that we don't always have to keep a teacher that's worked 3 or 4 years that might go to another district, or to have the right technology, or to have the right buildings and grounds. So I'll be voting yes. I won't go on and on about it. I do think it's more than just a kind of black and white issue. There's a lot more to it. I don't want to be playing sides, anti-charter school, but I think for right now in 2016, with the stresses that Winthrop has gone through, and I would not want to see any more money sort of funneled out of our school budget. So for those purposes, I would be in favor of it. Is there anything else? All right, should we call a roll? Let's call a roll. Ms. Haynes?
Mr. Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Holden?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
No.
Ms. Callis?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Okay. Next, under unfinished business, we have, last item on the agenda tonight is the second reading and adoption of the Buildings and Ground Security Policy. We amended the Buildings and Ground Security Policy to include this last paragraph that I'll just read now. If a security concern presents itself during non-school hours, the superintendent or his and her designee will suspend school until the grounds have been deemed safe and secure by the Winthrop Police Department and/or the Fire Department, as well as the Buildings and Grounds Manager or his or her designee. So that is the amendment to the Buildings and Grounds Security Policy. That's the second reading. I will make a motion to adopt that policy. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by President Driscoll. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Motion passes. And we're back down to public comment.
I just have a question.
Oh, sure.
Did we miss the student handbooks?
No, we did them.
Did them before?
We, Mrs. Pearson and Mr. Harity were here at the beginning, and we
Okay.
approved them when they were here, yeah. I'll talk to you after the meeting, just briefly about something else, but thank you. Yeah, so we did that, and we did the coaches and athletes handbook. So seeing no public, I think, in the room.
There's no public.
They'll all be here at the next meeting though, won't they? August 29th, right? They'll all be at the new school.
They'll all want to come to see the new buildings, right? That's the way to get an audience in. The public can come to
Everybody's gonna
that.
want to get their first
Even if they don't have a
view
child in there,
of
that's
the
it.
new seats in the auditorium. All right, public relations, Mr. Vecchio,
Nothing. Nothing.
Ms. Perrin. Just, I said this at the last meeting, but just keep in mind the kindergarten social is August, I forget what the date is, August 21st.
The
We just approved the
kindergarten,
buildings around the kindergarten social, so if your child's going to get to kindergarten,
it's on a Sunday, right?
it's on the Sunday, try to get to that, that social. It's just such a great time. If you're a new family to the school, if you have 10 other kids in the school system and you have a kid going into kindergarten, it's a great event. And then we're all gonna run over to Ingleside Park to see Mr. Sherman's band concert after this and wish him well, and he's done such a great job with the instrumental program and getting our band up and running. And I guess that's it for me. Mr. Holden, any public relations?
I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Callis, President Driscoll? All right. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Capabianco, is there a second? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.